Warning, this episode contains strong language or mature themes. Parental discretion is advised.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Chernevsky. I'm the host and producer of this podcast, Is Uncalled For. You may have noticed we are not doing live Fringe this year because of a COVID outbreak in this very house. I myself was not affected, but other people were. And that is why we could not do live Fringe this year. We'll see about next year. So in the meantime, you get us for Virtual Fringe for the third year in a row. And want to thank all my guests for agreeing to the transition from in-person to virtual. And thank you. I couldn't do this without you, and you guys rock. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Welcome to this podcast is Uncalled For.
Well, the name of this podcast is Stuff Uncalled For?
This podcast is uncalled.
Podcast, all right. Well,
what's uncalled for about it?
What we doing, T1?
And he's like, what did you just say?
It's a bit of a slap in the face and an insult.
And they're going to take you back home.
Oh, that's going to be great for the football chart.
Yeah, it's kind of, what is that character from Guardians of the Galaxy who takes everything literally?
Because it always happens. It always happens.
That is uncalled for, Michael.
And now, your host for this podcast, Mike Chernevsky.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, and welcome Amy Bell to the podcast. So,
thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So am I. So let's start with by talking politics, because we're both former candidates for office, and in fact, that's kind of how we met in the first place, was through politics. Now, you ran for the Kansas House, right?
Yes.
What years?
2012 and 2014.
All right. Now remind me because I know you lost both races, and I think it was Barbara Bollier's district, right?
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same Barbara Bollier who recently tried to run as a Democrat for the U.S. Senate. And if I'm not mistaken, she won both those races. Remind me, were you primaried for either of those races?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's the because being primary, that is the crux of what got me pissed off with the local party.
Really?
Yep.
See, I basically what got me into running for office is I just happened into the Johnson County Democratic breakfast, like the second Saturday.
Yep.
And they were talking about races where they didn't have candidates running, and that they were needing volunteers for those races. And I was like, you mean if nobody runs, then we just get a Republican representative without like no option? And they're like, yeah, those races are just gonna be handed to the Republicans. So I said, okay, well, my area doesn't have one. I volunteer, right? And I was treated like crap by the party. And when I volunteered to run, the redistricting hadn't happened, where Barbara Bollier was the opponent. When I initially signed up, it was Kay Wolf was supposed to be my opponent. And the redistricting that year put Barbara Bollier into my district after I had already filed to run. And so all of these people got really angry with me for running against Barbara Bollier. And I was like, wait a minute, isn't she is a Republican, right? Like last I checked, she is a Republican. And they're like, yeah, but we like her. She's going to bring all the moderate Republicans over to the Democratic Party for us. And I was like, well, that doesn't actually sound good enough to me. Like, I feel like we should have proper, more left-leaning representation. And people were furious. I was like, people spread rumors about me being anti-choice. In the 2014 race, I think it was the 2014 race. It was one of the gubernatorial race years. It might have been 2012. I can't remember. But one of the like progressive caucus or leaders was telling people that I was the reason Sam Brownback won. It was
Nonsense.
Absolutely, like if I had that much power, you know. So like it wasn't the primarying that got me. It was actually I was the only Democrat in the race, and they still didn't like me. Like it was a really unpleasant experience with the party. Now the community was perfectly supportive, right? And you know, you'd go knock on doors and they'd say things like, "Oh well, yeah, you know, we like Barbara and all, but we're Democrats and we'd really like to see some more Democrat policies in place." I was like, "Yeah, me too." But the party itself was just ridiculous. So what happened with your primary?
Okay, so we're talking 2016 in my
Okay.
case, and it was for state senate. I live in the 21st Senate District, currently represented by Dinah Sykes, who, like Barbara Bollier, started off as a Republican, then switched to Democrat. Looking to unseat Greg Smith.
Yeah.
And we both know how terrible he is.
Oh yeah. He was one of the authors of some of the worst sort of legislation that the Kansas House passed during that era. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, basically January 2nd, 2015, I filed to run for that seat. And then about a year later, so 2016, some punk kid shows up and decides, yeah, I'm going primary this guy. And the party pretty much yeah. Yeah, not to mention all the disrespect that came his way. Like he sent volunteers to my house, and they didn't allow me to talk at the caucus. Only with some finagling by the Bernie campaign was I allowed to speak to a certain cadre of caucus goers. Just 100% disrespect from this kid, and I wound up losing in the primary. So come the general election, Dinah Sykes wins the primary against Greg Smith on the Republican side, and I was like, I cannot support this punk running against me, so I go and support Dinah, who again, like Barbara Bollier, is far enough to the center that she could easily switch parties, and as we both know, she did. after all the election nonsense, Dinah got elected, and I try to get myself back on the e-board to make sure that's the executive board of the Johnson County Democratic Party, which, full disclosure, I had served on for 4 years when Gene Raridan was in the State House. And said punk kid's father decided to run against me and use the fact that I supported Dinah against me from being on the e-board. And my rebuttal is simply, well, if your kid hadn't treated me with the level of disrespect that he did, then maybe things would have been different. But no, you chose to be disrespectful. You chose to send volunteers to my house. You chose to not let me speak at a caucus event. You had volunteers at said caucus telling people, hey, sign my petition or you can't vote. No, fuck that, and fuck you. And didn't say those words specifically, but you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
So I only got 2 votes from everyone that was there, and the writing was on the wall. I could not, still can't really stand to be around the guy. Well, 1 year later, same punk kid decides, oh, I'm going to run for OP City Council, and the son of a bitch got elected. And then just last year,
OP City Council is such a cluster.
Yeah. Then just last year, I decided, oh, I'm going, here's an opportunity. I can unseat said punk kid from the city council at the last minute this time. And again, another primary, because it was a crowded, nonpartisan, I should say, race, and finished dead last. That's okay, because I was part of a coalition, the Coalition for a Better Overland Park, which I'm still technically part of. So a coalition of a nonpartisan coalition of other candidates running for different seats throughout Overland Park, and only a couple of them got elected. Unfortunately, another candidate from the coalition, his name is Ryan Spencer, was also had one in the primary, but lost in the general to said punk kid. All right, so I have no problem. So this is a little bit. I mean, I have no problem supporting Republican candidates if I feel the Democrats is completely unworthy, and this guy I feel is completely unworthy of being in office. And for his apologists to come and attack me for that, well, fuck them too.
When situations like that arise, I leave those races blank. And yeah, nobody's getting my vote here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just done with the blue no matter who nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that got us a lot of well, I'll just say I can't stand Joe Biden. I'm still upset that he got the presidential nominee.
Mm-hmm.
And almost anyone else in the race over Joe Biden I would have been happier with.
Okay.
Like they managed to get the worst choice for me. And I voted for him, and I went, you know what? This is the last time. This is the last time
Mm-hmm.
I'm casting a settlement vote. I just the party needs to become more responsive to the people. They're undemocratic. They're I mean, just today I was looking at the process by which a person could say, okay, I want to have a say with the party, right?
Mhm.
And it's very difficult. A small number of faceless, nameless people are able to dictate who gets to set platforms, policies, and the average voter who thinks that they're getting their electoral say when they show up to the polls
Mhm.
has no idea who is actually making these platform decisions, who's making the decisions on what candidates are getting pushed to the forefront. It's undemocratic.
Mhm.
And people don't even know how undemocratic it is unless they show up and try to be part of the process. And if you show up alone, if you show up without a caucus or something, they drive you out of there faster than you can blink.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you know, straight up slander sometimes. Just like I said, uh, the little rumor mill would go, and it's such a incestuous group of people that it spreads really quickly.
Mhm.
So this whole like Amy's anti-choice. Well, I mean, I was the state chair of Kansas Now. Like, I had a feminist radio program. Like, I'm not anti-choice, but they pen me as that within the people that make the decisions for the party, and that wasn't something that got to go to the people to be voted on. That like that, you know, I mean, they get to vote in the race, right?
Mhm.
But when the party withholds volunteers, chooses not to invest any money in an individual race, the average voter will go, well, this person doesn't have an organized campaign. And especially when there's a moderate Republican, go, well, we probably better just stick with that.
Mhm.
So it just, a lot happens behind the scene that people don't know about. Like, it's hard for the average voter to understand how much of what they think is their democracy is decided by faceless people to them. You know, you and I know who's making these decisions,
Yes. Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
and we know how they've gotten there, and it's not democratic.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, I think that, to me, that is one of the primary things that when you know, a lot of the country's just really fed up with this. They're really fed up with the choices that the Democratic Party makes
Mhm.
as a national party. I think a lot of people do not pay enough attention to their state races as they should.
Right.
And also part of that is that the national party, like, it's not the national party isn't just some sort of group of national actors. It is the will of the individual state parties. The individual state parties still have a just enormous amount of influence on the national politics too. Um, Really, those ground level, no name people that nobody is aware that nobody's even aware that they in Kansas get to be committee people if they want,
Mhm.
that they have to file for that they have to run for that, and then they can have a vote to vote on the people that have a vote to vote on the people that have a vote to vote on the people that have a vote for the DNC.
Yep.
Like, that is how convoluted the process is, and lay people don't know it. And by lay people, I mean regular voters,
Yeah.
people who think they are members of the Democratic Party and have no idea how this organization runs.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I was a precinct person for 13 years and actually spit down because of 17. I'm not going to vote for that punk, and shame on you for pushing him on me. And while I'm thinking about it, 2016, I noticed a huge like yank to the right among particularly the YDs. There's you may I think you recall when Ryland was running the YDs, and
I do.
I feel that when he died, the spirit of the YDs died with him. Well, 16 comes along, and all of a sudden you have these Republican light types in the YDs, and these punks are all getting elected somehow, even in my house district, and I just can't support them. And I know a couple of them for a fact were among the volunteers I had mentioned, sign our petition or you can't vote.
Well, okay. So, this is one of the points that I'm going to be grumpy about Bernie Sanders. And I don't know. How do you feel about Bernie Sanders?
Well, Bernie's people did help me with my campaign, so I owe a debt to them. And ideologically, I do align myself more with Bernie, but if you don't, that's perfectly fine too.
I do actually. Well, I align myself. I think he is capturing the left spirit of the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
I think that some of the proposals Elizabeth Warren had would have actually taken us farther left. Yep. And I don't like that Bernie's people made her sound more right wing than him, even though I know she used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer in people can have that change mentality and wake up to their wrongheadedness. But that's all just kind of personal preference. Whatnot. My problem with Bernie Sanders is that I feel like his position, he could have done so much more to energize his base. I mean, he had such a great network going.
Mm-hmm.
To address the leadership problems in the state parties. And I think that when he runs for president as a Democrat and then in off years goes back to being an independent, he is forgoing that leadership that he could have to help drive the understanding that it's races that you might not even notice, the people the names you don't recognize, those little ground level things. Like, I feel like he's in such a good position to either lead the charge,
mm-hmm.
to form a grassroots movement to reform the party, or to lead an exodus that forms an actual viable third party, which I think is less likely. Like, I think the third party option is the least viable.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that he should have been leading the charge to bring a ground level up transformation of Democratic Party leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're ripe for the taking. Like, there are more of us than there are of them, but they know the meetings to go to. They know the hands to shake.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got the voter information in the databases locked up. So, like, you and I can't just go find the people who would be willing to, like, participate in that change.
Right.
He could do that. And it upsets me that he doesn't. And I feel like he's kind of left us on the ground level having to come up with our own solutions on what's going on with the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
And only those of us who have entered into the world of the Democratic Party even know what it is that have to be changed.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense? Like, a change needs to happen, and it has to happen at the county level.
Yep.
For it to happen at the state level, for it to happen at the national level. And in some states, it means it has to happen at the Senate district level, or the congressional district level, or in our case, precincts and county into Senate district, into state level. I mean, it is so convoluted, but we have the numbers. If we could get them out to actually place the votes that they don't know they need to be placing. Like it's just, yeah, we just need a push there. We need to fix this.
I agree.
I'm tired of being told I'm too radical by the Democratic Party, because I have been regularly. I'm out collecting these vote yes signs that are out in public medians, and they're telling me that I'm a criminal, and they're just like, you are committing crimes, and I'm going, I am an attorney. I know what a crime is, and this isn't one. And they're like, well, I was told it was. Like, congratulations. My law degree says that I can read this statute, where you're kind of having some trouble here. And they just kept going with, you're committing a crime, you're committing a crime, you're committing a crime. And I said, you do realize that accusing a licensed professional of legal and ethical violations is serious slander. You can't just say that about me. That is actually actionable. You can't be spreading lies about me being a criminal. And over doing things to support the cause too. It's like, I mean, come on, you can't even win when they're gonna say that picking up litter from public medians, like, I'm not going into homeowners associations even and grabbing their medians. I'm not taking it off of business land, public right of way on business land. I'm taking it off of public land and medians on public roads. Like, this is not there's just not a legal theory whereby that's a crime. And in fact, I've yoinked them out of there right in front of police officers on multiple occasions, because I am not committing any crimes. I know I'm not committing any crimes, and I'm not concerned about being taken in for committing these imaginary crimes. And they just don't get that you can't say things like that about people. Like, you can't just say I'm committing crimes when no crimes have happened. You stop it. And it's that level of toxicity, that level of misunderstanding, and a culture that, like, people that get in there get driven away really, really, really fast, unless they have deep enough pocketbooks to be influential.
Right.
And that is exactly the kind of thing that people are so tired of. Like, we've got the numbers. We just got to get through this this quagmire. I don't know what to call it, but it's just a mess. I know you've seen a different part of the mess than I have, right?
Absolutely.
Completely different part of the mess. And other people I've talked to have seen different parts of the mess. But then, there are people who run in races that are unopposed, no primary, right? And have a Republican that they really don't like, and then they're really lauded as being super special. And it's not, I don't know, it's a weird thing. It's almost like, well, there's nothing I can do for the party living where I do that they're going to be happy with. And I certainly don't get to, just try to exercise what I'd like to see my community look like, right?
Right.
it I don't know. I get crap from people when I say things like the Democratic Party needs to change. I'm really tired of this. And people come on there and like, well, then you're gonna vote Republican. I'm like, no, disagreeing with the Democratic Party does not equal I'm a right-wing conservative now.
That's
And
right.
you know, if once you get in there, depending on what part of town you live in, who invited you to the group. I mean, sometimes it'll just be, you know, the friend that invited you to come meet the party was already persona non grata. And so now you're just, nope, get this person out of here. It's, you know, I thought middle school was tough socially with like the mean girls and stuff like that.
Right.
It's got nothing on how our country's actually run at these ground level races. It's amazing.
That's right.
And so yeah, I'm going to complain about that. They shouldn't be able to run our country that way. It's not a good option. This is not what democracy actually looks like. And it's why you're continually getting candidates that you're going, well, this isn't exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can continue to get candidates who claim they're progressive, but you look at their record. Brookridge golf course, tearing out all that green space for a development that still hasn't happened, and you know, we'll see about that. Claim, oh, I'm pro-education. Well, said development is being paid off the backs of the Cheyenne Mission School District. Environmentally friendly, well, in addition to Brookridge okaying a toll lane at a time when we need to be cutting off our dependence from cars, you tell me that's progressive. And that ain't progressive, not even one bit. Truly progressive would be arguing, oh, let's put a streetcar on Metcalf.
Yes. And expanding public transit, you know, making taxes make sense. You know, we really haven't recovered from the 2013 tax stupidity. I don't even know how to like that, the tax thing, the Brownback's tax plan. It's like once they remove a tax, the Democrats don't have the stomach to reinstate it fully, right?
Right.
Because well, this is a tax hike, and you know, actually, I would rather, for example, tax the crap out of Bill Gates than let him give all of his money into a charity that allows him to define what education policy looks like in this country. That is one of the most undemocratic things imaginable. He gets to take all of his money, have a tax write-off on it, and disproportionately influence what education policy looks like in the United States. And I don't even care if I agree with what his policies are. I don't care what they are. He shouldn't be the education guru. Like that should be up to elected people. And you know, being able to just say no, tax is better than charitable giving, actually.
I agree.
Yeah. Like fund hospitals, like, you know, God bless St. Jude and all, but they should be funded without having to, you know, advertorial for that stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That care should be covered without, you know, we shouldn't need a march of dimes. We shouldn't need all of that stuff. It should just be covered.
Absolutely. We do have only a couple minutes left, unfortunately. So we'll I'll go and close on talking about your podcast real quick.
Yeah,
I've heard a couple of episodes. Amy's podcast, by the way, is called "These Are Bad Movies." These are bad movies. Respect my authority.
They're all bad. Every single one of them. All bad movies.
I heard the Top Gun episode, and I agree, not a great movie, but then again, it does have one of the best movie soundtracks ever. So,
Well, that is an opinion that one could have. Oh, it's not the worst. It's not the worst. I actually really, what was the Playing with the Boys? There's a cover of it on Rocket League that I really like. That's a cover of it with a female singer, and it's actually very good. I really like it. So now I hear that one play, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound right. Kenny Loggins or whatever. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point of the podcast is to kind of look at how we're being socialized to look at things, and just spotting propaganda, because just the little ways that you're told to view the world can have a big impact on things like how Americans still react to the word socialist as though it's, the Cold War, and we're going to practice duck and cover drills now. It's disproportionate to reality, and it's disproportionate to what, most of our socialist allies, I mean, most of the countries that we are closest alike with and most allied with are already socialist nations and do not understand our fear of that word. And a lot of it comes from the media that we consume, the really passive ways that things are represented as being either bad or normal, and they shouldn't be maybe considered normal. It has an impact on the way you view your political spectrum. The fact that Top Gun was really a recruiting move. It was just trying to get people to join the Navy. And you sit there and you watch. I mean, I watched it as a kid and I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I mean, it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, right? And I played the Nintendo version and I was like, I hate this. But I hadn't stopped to think about like, that's people in this war that are being killed. Like, it makes you not think all the way through on these choices, because it's just like, this is rad as hell. Let's just go ahead and fly this bomber, right?
Right.
Not everything that looks rad as hell is actually a good thing for the world.
So true. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to leave it there, but thanks for being on the podcast, and let me know if you want to invite me to do your podcast sometime. So
I was actually going to extend that invitation, but here's the thing: you have to come up with a movie.
I'll consider it. In the meantime, there is a top 10 movies episode of this podcast I suggest listen to. I'll share the link with you.
I'll take a listen.
All right.
And then we like to tear apart people's favorite movies. So that's just a hobby.
All right. Well,
thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah. Talk to you soon.
This podcast is Uncalled For is hosted, produced and edited by Mike Chernevsky. Opening music is Cool Hard Facts by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. The outro music for all 2022 Virtual Fringe Festival episodes is Open Door by Little Glass Men, licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution license. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting platform. Like our Facebook page at facebook.com/uncalledforpodcast, and check out our blog with show notes at uncalledfor.home.blog. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.